Hey, good evening to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here. Hurricane Outlook and Discussion time. It is August 27th, 2020. This is an evening update here. I'm in Gulfport, Mississippi after quite an interesting week. Boy, we have all been through a lot. I'm tired. Hopefully I'm not going to ramble on too long here. But there is stuff to talk about. Hurricane season is very much in play. And we have to go to that next play. That's what the title of the graphic is there. The next play. What do we do next? And it's not just keeping up with the hurricane season, but what are the people in Louisiana in particular? What are they going to do? Some folks down there really hurting now. A lot of uncertainty in a time of a lot of uncertainty and stress that's already going on. It doesn't matter that we saw all of this coming and that things are happening pretty much the way that we thought they would. Those of us that keep up with this stuff pretty closely, we have seen the signals. None of that's going to help these people. So kind of reach down deep and give these folks a good boost. Thoughts, prayers, whatever it is, whatever you do to financial contributions to relief funds, sending help, via different grassroots organizations. Now's the time to do it. And, this is while everything else is going on. So I realize it's hard. And I just want you to know I empathize. I do. I see it. And it hurts. We get excited about these storms from the perspective of how unusual, fascinating, mysterious they are. But at the end of the day, these police officers that we meet who are very kind to us, letting us set up equipment in their communities without giving us any problems, they're there, and they're dealing with this now. A wrecked community, Holly Beach, Cameron, Hackberry, many other places, Lake Charles. It goes on and on and on. I just want you to know that we feel it right here. We're with you. And I have an expression. I say hang in there. We got to keep hanging on, even if the alligators are nipping at your feet. You got to keep hanging on. Try to have that positive mental attitude. Because if you don't and you give up, that's no good. You can't do that. So let's take a look at what's going on. At least right now, no hurricanes to worry about. That might change in the not too distant future, but that's down the road. Here's Laura sitting over Arkansas. Very formidable tropical storm, lots of moisture with it. Rainfall, wind, severe weather from time to time. And this whole system's going to continue to move on and eventually get out over the Atlantic. And it might produce more ace points up here if it gets, back to pure tropical cyclone status. We'll see. When they move over land, they lose their energy source. And so the pressure starts to fill in and the winds die down because there's not as much of a pressure gradient. Pressure gradient is the difference between pressure over distance. And when the pressure in the center is not nearly as low as it is around the periphery out here, these isobars that I'm kind of drawing in, I'm just pretending here. When these are not very tight and the pressure gradient is not strong, the wind is not as strong, and that makes perfect sense there. So this will continue to fill and move on through the eastern United States and then back out over the Atlantic. A little bit of disturbed weather here in the northwest Caribbean. Kind of always got to watch anything that pops up this time of year. And more disturbances out here in the Atlantic. Some dry air that's come off. You can see that very stable air through here. This kind of gray color all through here. That's drier, more stable air, but that's going to get replaced and mixed out. And I think we're going to have a period of more storms coming up. And we can see that reflected in the outlooks here. We'll look at both of these in just a moment. First, real quick, in the eastern Pacific, we do have Hernan and Isel, and Hernan here right off the coast of Mexico, fortunately, going to turn away. I say it would be really nice to get one of these to come up in the Gulf of California, not too strong wind-wise, but deliver some moisture up into the desert southwest. Copious moisture so you don't get dry thunderstorms with a lot of lightning. And unfortunately, we're not seeing that. These are just going to turn on out to sea. It does look like, which is good on one hand because you don't have to worry about hurricanes in the eastern Pacific right now. But on the other hand, you could use the moisture. Interestingly enough, at the same time, Isel over here going to kind of come up and do a loop-de-loop as our other one moves out and kind of mixes with it an unusual pattern, still kind of favorable in the East Pacific, spilling over into the Atlantic Basin. Speaking of the Atlantic Basin, let's go back to the National Hurricane Center homepage and take a look at the rest of the Atlantic. You got the tropical weather outlook here. Development possible out over the Atlantic Basin, and this updated at 8 p.m. tonight, just now, as I'm putting this together. Even though it's not 8 p.m., it's really 7:46 p.m. You know, it's for the 8 p.m. time slot. 0Z, put it that way. 30% for both of these systems, so gotta watch them. It's that time of year, and you folks in the Caribbean, clearly this is indicating a potential threat. So Barbados, all the way from Guadeloupe down through the windwards, Trinidad and Tobago included, you're going to want to pay attention. And same with this system here. Might be more of a threat for the northern islands. You just never know. Way too soon for the details. You know how it goes. But the overall pattern is such that the Atlantic is going to be favorable for at least the next couple of weeks, maybe longer. And you're going to have these periods where tropical activity dies down, and then it's going to come back again, and we're going to just keep adding to the named storms list, or scratching the names off the list, whichever way you want to look at it. The next name, by the way, is Nana, N-A-N-A, followed by, I believe, it is Omar. Laura, as I told you earlier here, showed you earlier, eventually going to move out across the eastern United States after going through Kentucky, West Virginia, and off the mid-Atlantic states. Our good friend Delaware Steve over here might get some action from it, as well as Chase over here from Maryland. Got a lot of people that live up here that support our work, and you're going to be dealing with this in the next few days. So, you know, be on the lookout for that, and especially from the Storm Prediction Center, maybe some severe weather. That could be a big problem. Or not. It's just hard to say. Let me just show you that real quick, what I mean. No watches and warnings right now of any consequence in the mid-Atlantic, but you could just extrapolate this, and it could eventually end up through here over the next few days. So please keep an eye on that as we move forward. You just never know with these dying systems. And isn't it interesting, these are all heat advisories over here in Texas. Plenty of fuel still down here, plenty of instability, humidity. It's still summertime. It's not like a big old trough dug out of Canada, bringing cold air down and booted this thing out. Nope, it's not even the end of August. Well, it is sort of, right? It's the 27th. We still have 4 days to go. But it's not like it's late September or something, and we get a deep trough digging in. So keep your eyes on what develops here over the next few days with Laura for the mid-Atlantic states, all right? And it's interesting because the tropical cyclones are doing their job. They are taking the heat out of the ocean. They don't necessarily move heat out of the tropics per se, as they erase the heat out of the ocean. The upper ocean heat content gets dwindled, and the heat gets released into the atmosphere where the tropical cyclone is. They're not efficient heat movers. In other words, let's say one developed right here and went across and became a hurricane here and went all the way around and did something like this, pretty much stayed out to sea. And it was a major hurricane from here on out. Let's just pretend for a second. It doesn't remove heat and take the heat from here to here in the atmosphere, but it does erode away upper ocean heat content all through that area. And you get these cold wakes left behind. And they are very efficient at doing that, just so you know. And this is the one from Genevieve, I do believe, the cold wake. This is from Marco and the beginnings of Laura that went through there. And so any Cape Verde systems or Cabo Verde systems that develop and move their way across, the earlier that they develop, the more they'll churn up this water. It's just interesting to see. It's part of the overall process. I'm fascinated with it because over time they start to carve up the ocean, and eventually the balance is kind of restored because they are removing that upper ocean heat content, and that keeps the oceans from just getting ridiculously warm. It's pretty neat, isn't it? It's just tragic that they have the results that they do. This map is always a day behind, so when we look at this tomorrow, you're going to notice a big change over here because of Laura. It's interesting too. Let me just zoom in on this. So you see all these blues in here. These are negative anomalies. These are below average temperatures. So even though Marco and Laura knocked the temperatures down from an anomaly point of view, you know, the departures from normal, this is what it looks like from the actual sea surface temperatures point of view. And you got a big bullseye sitting in here, and you look at that and you go, whoo, blue and deep purple there, dark blue, etc. It must be chilly. No, not really. Even the dark purple is 27 degrees Celsius. And that is 81 Fahrenheit. Still very, very warm, relatively speaking. I mean, it's all in how you look at it, I guess. It's not like it's chilly, but the good news is upper ocean heat content was disturbed, but don't think that that's not going to still allow for strong hurricanes. Just hopefully it'll take that ceiling off, that we won't have any more high-end Category 4s. Again, this data is always a day behind. This is the 26th. This is going to look a lot different when I show it to you tomorrow. All right, so moving on, the vorticity signature. There's Laura over the deep south here, and our systems in the Pacific. And then energy out here, vorticity, the spin in the atmosphere. I like to look at this chart. It kind of shows me the guts of these systems. And there's energy waiting and lurking, trying to develop as it moves west into favorable environments, which leads me to this. We are in a favorable environment. This is the Madden-Julian Oscillation. We are right here. Roughly, actually, it's the 27th, so we're probably over here. And this is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And what you need to know, the bottom line of this interesting graphic, when the MJO moves around and gets into phases 8, 1, 2, and 3, but especially 1, 2, and 3, that really favors Atlantic Basin development. And the longer it takes to get out of these phases, the more time that the Atlantic remains favorable. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's the upward motion in the atmosphere. This promotes, in these phases, generally speaking, more rising motion, less shear, more moisture, more convergence, just a nice pattern, a fertile garden, if you will, for these systems to develop. And the Madden-Julian Oscillation, an interesting phenomenon. We can track this, you can see it. And right now in the Atlantic Basin, everything's blooming, going on that garden metaphor. You can look at the satellite imagery and look at what we've got. There's Laura taking advantage of it, some convection here. And even over in the eastern Pacific, this is part of that 8-1 scenario, those phases. And as it grows, you start to spill it out into the Atlantic, and eventually it's very favorable in the main development region and over Africa. And these very strong impulses come across because the Madden-Julian Oscillation allows for that umbrella of favorability. And then we can see it reflected in the precipitable moisture. You know what that is? A ghost is running the sink or something. That's very strange. I'm the only one here, I promise. There it is, it stopped. I guess the toilet does that sometimes. Or it's a ghost, who knows. So this is dry air that comes in from time to time. Very suppressing dry air. Just isn't going to work for tropical cyclones. But look what's happening. Pretty good spin and rotation right here. And as this moves west, it could develop, especially once it gets into the Caribbean, where that phase 8-1 Madden-Julian Oscillation is waiting. And then this large envelope of energy will also move across. And look what's happening. This moisture coming out, and this will eventually kind of fold over, and all of this is going to wrap up. And I think we're going to have a huge hurricane develop out of that eventually. A very large size hurricane in the Atlantic Basin in about a week. I believe that's coming, and we can see it reflected in the modeling. This is what that vorticity looks like. Here it is here. Here it is here in the model. This is the Euro. There's a bundle of vorticity right there with Laura. And look what happens. We go through the next few days, and there you go, 24 hours out, 48, 72. Laura gets offshore, kind of drops south off of Cape Hatteras. That's kind of interesting. Not much really going on with this system or this system, but watch what happens when we get to 96 hours and beyond. Laura, the remnants out to sea, that's right here, kind of caught up in this trough up here. This is trying to amplify some through the islands, so maybe an increase in moisture, etc. And look, here we go. That overall large envelope, the vorticity tries to focus, and the Euro is suggesting maybe a tropical cyclone tries to develop. It's the pattern, not the details, that in 4 days, right there, 96 hours, maybe somewhere in this vicinity, we see something to try to get going. And by day 5, it's a little bit more prevalent. And by day 6 and 7, just showing you about a week out, maybe something in the Southwest Caribbean to watch. And maybe a large envelope of energy there that bundles up. And it's south of this huge area of high pressure. Probably just going to barrel west for a few days. It's the pattern. The pattern is there. And it's just a matter of will anything to develop to take advantage of it. So look, I want to thank everybody that's visited hurricanetrack.com these last few days, the overall brand. So much going on, so many people getting involved, the Patreon support, crowdfunding. Man, oh man, you guys overwhelmed me. I never expected it. A lot of people signed up. I know a lot of people were wanting to see the cameras and had a lot of interest in that. I'm hoping you'll stick around because it's much more than just a flash in the pan. Hey, watch this. It's a process. It's a community that we're building. And not just that, it's this idea of innovation and learning how to use technology to our advantage and educate each other, work together as a community. And it's just grown phenomenally. So I really, really appreciate that. We still have a lot of hurricane season to go. So you just click on that right there on the hurricanetrack.com homepage. And it's crowd-funded science. That's exactly what it is. The graphic at the front of this is produced by one of our patrons. We've had so many people that have pitched in behind the scenes to help out. You just don't even know. Believe me. And it has helped me tremendously with my stress level to be able to focus on things. It really stinks that Laura made landfall in the middle of the night. There's nothing we can do about that. But because of the funding and the ideas, we're going to be able to do a lot, including maybe even work on some lighting systems for nighttime. We're never going to be able to light up an entire area. That would take Hollywood-grade lighting, and, who's going to do that? And we don't even need to do that. I've got some other ideas just to give us a glimpse. Sorry, I made me go away. Just to give us a glimpse of what's happening, even just a few minutes at a time, to look in. This crowdfunding is going to help that. So if you want to get involved, that is what we do on Patreon. Don't think of it as a subscription or you're buying something. Think of it as an investment in the future of not only modern hurricane coverage, but other weather, winter storms, lake effect snow, the documentaries that I produce, all of that is part of this bigger project. And it's wonderful to have the people involved that have been involved, and I encourage you to get involved if it fits in with your budget. It's only $10 a month to unlock everything. And there's other tiers, even higher if you're in the position to do so with other benefits to, incentivize it. That's the word, to give you something back that's meaningful for your support to help this grow. So huge thank you to everybody that's made this possible. We had a lot of hurricane season left, and so it's not over yet, and we're going to develop that next play and move forward. That's what it's all about. So tomorrow is Friday. I can't believe it. Let me come back on real quick. One of the things that I do is this documentary series called The Hurricane Highway. And some of our patrons get their names mentioned at the end of that. Crowdfunding produces films sometimes. So this new series, The Hurricane Highway, the 4th episode is going to be available on YouTube tomorrow, and it's all about the weather balloon project, Hurrby, Hurrb. And it's a really, really good episode. I'm hoping you'll tune in. all the other episodes to date, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, all streaming on YouTube. I need to make a playlist. I know there's so much I need to do. And we're going to be able to do that now that we've got the funding to kick in, and people willing to help out. But yes, episode 4 coming tomorrow, and then a week from tomorrow, next Friday, is episode 5, all about Hurricane Dorian last year. So the Hurricane Highway documentary series, streaming on YouTube. I got to get them on Amazon as well. I'm getting behind there. Funded and produced for the support, with the support of our patrons. They're the ones that are helping to make that happen. So episode 4 tomorrow, I think you're really, really going to like it. It's probably my best overall production that's closest to resembling a full-on television episode yet. It's really, really good. I can't wait for you to see it. So by tomorrow evening, I'll make that available publicly on YouTube. And by the way, if you're a patron, it's already available. And in fact, I'll put the link to it tonight in a Patreon update. All right? Okay, so let me go. Again, you folks in Louisiana, hang in there. Help's coming. You've been through this before. You can do it again. Pick yourselves up and stay strong. We got your back. And we'll keep looking forward and develop that next play. Maybe we build back even better and stronger, and we can be resilient. That's what it's all about. All right, have a great rest of your evening. As always, thanks for tuning in and listening and watching me and all that good stuff. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll see you again tomorrow.